I'm Scott Campbell at Solve 3D.
And I'm Kevin Miller at Solve 3D.
Kevin, one of the questions I've got is what is an org administrator and what do they do inside an Encompass system?
Yeah, so if you've just signed up with a copy of Encompass, uh, basically you're going to be set up as an organization administrator. So one individual has kind of full admin rights to the system, and an organization is a collection of projects or settings and users that are grouped together for your company. So as an organization administrator, you have a whole bunch of different extra responsibilities, but we already mentioned, creating projects and inviting users to the system, but some of the other responsibilities they have, that's what we'll cover right now. So to access the organization management, you just go to management on the left-hand side. And you're presented with a set of cards here at the top, user management settings, etc. And then you also have a few other kind of charts below. So we'll start by talking about the active users chart. So this chart here, you can see the active users that are currently in the system, what projects they're currently accessing. So we have 2 users right now and an approximate time elapsed of how long they've been in the project. You can choose to do a couple things here. You can either there's some filter options for searching or narrowing it down. Or if you want to kick someone out of the system, you want to free up a license. For example, like if I want to kick you, Scott, here, I can just click kick user and kick you out of the system.
Oh,
So
thanks for that, Kevin. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
you are welcome. So on your screen, you should be back to the login screen at that point. So kind of moving on, project statistics is the second chart here. It's essentially a list of all the projects that are defined in your organization that you have control over, and the file sizes of all of the points and images and assets within that project. So it does, some projects are stored on the cloud here, and that cloud, we don't know the exact size of a cloud project. So because of that, there is a calculate statistics button. You may want to, if you want to get updated stats, or people are adding and removing data from projects, you may want to click this calculate statistics buttons once in a while, and it will process the statistics in the background and update this chart as soon as it's done. And you'll also get an email indicating when it's finished.
So this is a good way to see which projects are consuming a lot of disk space, got a lot of data, and which projects don't.
That's right, yeah. Kind of moving on, there's a couple other things on the left-hand side here that we'll cover. So first, let's talk about session tracking. So session tracking, similar to the active users, however, it's more of a historical user session tracking. So it lets you see who has accessed any of your projects in your organization within a defined time frame. So there's a few filters at the top here. I'm just going to select from the beginning of the month here till now. You can filter by project if you'd like, if you want to group by an individual project in your system. But for this example, I'm just going to uncheck that and show everything. And you just click search session, and it'll run a query and return all of the users who's accessed your project, including the ones that have been in the system right now. So you can see kind of a running list of those users and how long each user has spent in the system at that time. For some of these, you can even break down. If you want to know what I was looking at here, you can just click project list, and you can see I had accessed these 2 projects and how long I had accessed them for. And if you'd like, you can also export this to Excel or a CSV or a PDF file if you want to run a report on it or do some extra queries on it. And yeah, I think that's it for the user session tracking. So kind of moving on, some of the other stuff you can do as an organization admin, we're going to talk about this organization tab here. So clicking on that, you're going to get access to the organizations in the system that you have credentials for or authorization to manage. So in my case, I only have the one. You might have more if you have more than one organization. Uh,
Let's just
on
talk about that for a minute. So
Sure.
for most users, it'll just be one organization, like it'll be a company. So it could be ABC Surveying or ABC Construction Company or something like that. It'll be one org. But you may also want to create two orgs depending on how you're structured. So you could have one organization for a sales team, one organization for a construction team, or there could be a number of different ways you may want to split it up, correct?
That's right. And the creation of organizations is done on a super user level. However, yeah, as an organization admin, you can at least see the ones that you have been assigned to
Yeah. So if
administrate.
anybody wants to set up multiple organizations on their Encompass instance, I would recommend that they check in with Solve 3D support.
Right. All right. So there's kind of three tabs here: organizations, cloud auth, and SAML. So we'll cover the organizations tab first. So we see that first org. As I click on it, you can see a couple of what we call white label settings. So right off the bat, you can see the licenses that are assigned. So how many standard, collaborator, and view-only licenses. So these have been assigned by us here at Solved or your system administrator. But you can choose to change if you want the name of the product. So say you want a custom name for Solved Encompass, you're branding it for something within your organization. You can also choose to change some of the logo settings and some of the colors. So I'll demonstrate that now. The top left logo being this one up here in the top left. I just prepared some random company logos here, so we'll just upload them. You don't have to be too special on the size of the icons. It will try its best to resize them down to a ratio that looks good. But if you really need to know, it does show you some ideal sizes when you hover over these. I've lost it now, but we have a document that explains that, so we can share that with you. So the mobile logo, I'll just upload a logo here, and I'll show you where that shows up in a second. Login logo is something that shows up on the login screen. So I'll just pick some whole bunch of different logos here. And company logo is what appears down here in the bottom left side. So you might want your own special company logo. So some people like having, the top left logo might be a product name that they called it, and then they have their company logo in the bottom left. Kind of similar to the colors, you can see the background color here, this kind of blackish navy blue. I can change that if I want. Maybe I want to go white and change my font color to black, and maybe my accent color to, I'll just pick a color in this blue. You can choose to enter the RGB if you have some corporate branding guidelines, or the hex code if you want to. So once you're happy, just hit save. And you see immediately the app is refreshed. I now see the logo and the colors that I chose, basically white on or black on white here. However, if you don't see this, it's probably because you're at the wrong domain name. When you get assigned an organization, it's assigned to a domain name. You see here, this one is demo.solve.com, and that's what I'm viewing here, demo.solve.com. That is how the system knows you're what white label to show. That other logo I mentioned, the mobile logo, is one that appears when you minimize, or say if you're on a mobile phone and you have small real estate, you see as I start shrinking this, you can see the top left logo here. But if I shrink it down to phone size, you can see that mobile logo appear there. So just sometimes you might not be able to fit a full big logo at the top of your phone or tablet or something. Kind of moving on to Cloud Auth. This is for settings. You probably don't need to set these up, but if you do, these are for settings when you want to host your Encompass data on another cloud provider, such as Microsoft Azure or a custom Amazon AWS S3 bucket. So there's different authorization settings for that and how to work with those. So we have a separate document that explains that as well. And then same with SAML. SAML, or sometimes referred to as single sign-on, SSO. This is where you would upload your single sign-on credentials for your organization. So there's a SAML XML file that you can upload, or if you know the values directly, you can just input them in here and save them. Again, we have a separate document that explains that.
Okay, so what are the organization and the project settings?
Yeah, so these settings over here on the left-hand nav called settings. These settings, I don't recommend you change them unless you know what you're doing. However, if you do want to contact us and learn more about these settings, we can definitely set up a call or send you some more information. But again, I'd recommend working with our support team to sort out these settings. But they're there for either overriding some common settings that might need changing in the app based off very specific scenarios, specific use cases on types of data you're using, specifically the custom URLs for being able to link out to other systems or to integrate into other systems. Again, so you can override them on an organization level or on a project level using the project settings tab. You can specify specific settings just for that project.
Okay, that's a pretty comprehensive overview of the org administrator role. And as you've said many times throughout this video, check the tech notes that are in the support portal for more information on many of these aspects. Thanks very much, Kevin.
No problem.